All right, welcome back to another one here on the couch, comfy, got coffee, cozy in the sweater, good to go. And lately I've been thinking a lot about what it means to be a man, and a good man in particular. So this one's really for the boys. Sorry, ladies. But you could listen too and maybe try to identify these qualities in the men that you're looking to. I think these let me say this. I've picked these three things out of my personal experience, out of witnessing and observing people who I believe are good men around me, but mostly out of my experience and out of making mistakes and learning from them and being better. So I'm going to touch on these three things, which are responsibility, discipline, and rationality. So make sure you hang out for all of it. So the first one is pretty straightforward, responsibility. I have gone through periods in my life where I've taken little to no responsibility for basically anything. And it happens in a couple different ways. One way in which it happens is not taking responsibility for the outcomes of my actions, for the consequences of my actions. Basically, and I've talked about this previously, having an external locus of control, right? And blaming the world and blaming what's around me for the conditions of my life, for the outcomes that I'm experiencing, which is, of course, utter nonsense and just the most ridiculous thing for a couple of reasons. First, it's ridiculous because it zaps you of all your power, right? If you are not responsible for the outcomes, if everything that happens to you is just a result of the world doing things to you, well, it doesn't matter what you do then, right? So you zap yourself of all of your autonomy. That's one reason why it's terrible to have that external locus of control. It zaps you of all your autonomy. And the second reason is because if you have no autonomy, then it literally does not matter what you do, which means that you don't have to have a purpose, you don't have to have a vision, you don't have to have a goal. So it's important, I think, to take responsibility, which means really turning to the internal locus of control, which again is basically accepting that the outcomes and the consequences in your life are in fact a result of generally your behavior or your decisions. There are outside influences, of course. But this is what taking responsibility is extra about as we continue through this, is it's being probably overly, maybe hypercritical, being hypercritical of yourself and the ways in which you have failed or let yourself down, or the ways in which you have produced the reality that you're now living in. Taking responsibility for that and being hypercritical of yourself for that. And I think the reality is that most people don't. We don't tend to do this. This is not natural to us. We're humans. We seek pleasure and avoid pain and everything. That pretty much underlies everything that we do. And it's painful to reconcile with the ways you're letting yourself down, the ways you're failing to build your life up. And a great way to avoid that pain is to just not fully acknowledge that you are responsible for your life. So this is very common. It's very common among young boys, among children. And it's something that as you become a man, you really have to learn to grapple with and to move past, right? You have to take responsibility for your failures, your shortcomings, and not just like your mistakes, but really like your lack. It could be your lack of discipline. It could be your lack of rationality, right? Taking responsibility for those things will directly improve your life. It will absolutely improve your life. So as a man, you have to move towards saying, okay, no, my life is mine. What happens in it, good and bad, are because of what I am or am not doing. And I am going to actively choose behaviors and mindsets and attitudes that are going to produce the best possible outcomes. Give myself the best shot at doing well in life. Not to mention that taking responsibility is going to earn you respect, which is one of the things that all men truly do want deep down, right? They want respect. They want respect from their peers, from their family, particularly from the women in their lives, right? From their wives, girlfriends. They want respect. And respect is not something that you just get. It's something that you earn. I think one of the great battles of the genders that's been going on, right, is this idea that there are these men out there who just they want the power and they want the respect and they want the control, but they don't do the things that actually earn them those, right? Having authority and having authority is a direct it's directly related to being responsible for things, and you can't be responsible for things without taking action and actually handling those things. And if you do both of those, people will respect you and be okay with giving you more authority, right? So these things are all connected, and that's why it's so important to walk through each of them. So that's responsibility, right? Take responsibility for your shortcomings, your mistakes, the ways in which you're self-sabotaging, and all of your behaviors, the good and the bad, but especially the bad, and being hypercritical of yourself when you are seeing the bad to make improvements, right? So that's responsibility. And so the second one is discipline. Now there are a lot of good definitions of discipline out there. I think Mike Tyson's the one who said, discipline is doing something you hate, but doing it like you love it. And that might be one of my favorite definitions of discipline, because discipline, and this is a trait of being a well-rounded and well-developed man, in my opinion, is just doing the things that are required. That it's not about doing what you want, it's doing the things that are required to get where you want to go, right? To fulfill and to actually build your vision. Turn your vision into reality. It is doing what you need to do when it needs done, not because you want to. Honestly, just take your emotions out of it. So this is pretty straightforward, right? You need to be healthy, which means you need to develop a workout plan and a diet plan and stick to it. That's your responsibility as a man, is to be healthy and have the discipline then, right, to act on that responsibility. It's the same thing with work, right? You have to be disciplined in whatever your job is. Be disciplined at it. Focus on work when you're at work. Commit to it. Commit to being the best at it, so that you can grow and achieve and earn more power and authority, right? Because that will earn you respect. All of these things will play nicely together, and you'll feel good about yourself. So having the discipline. And then again, having the discipline over your emotions. Like I said, it's not about what you want to do, it's about doing the things you have to do. And this plays right into being rational instead of irrational. So in this day, there's a lot of irrationality around us. There's a lot of people who are irrational, and it's hard not to be irrational, honestly. I think we all like to think we're rational, that we're not subject to the biases that plague us. And I'm not talking about prejudices and stuff. I'm talking about like groupthink. I'm talking about confirmation bias. These things that they're part of every human. We all do them. I do them. You do them. Anybody who thinks they don't fall victim to biases, they probably fall victim to a lot of them. Because the best thing you can do is just recognize that you fall victim to them. So that's the first step, is acknowledging that you're not always rational. A lot of things you do are not based on rational decisions, and that it's important to control your emotions, be discipline yourself with your emotions, right? And really act not out of emotions. I mean, that's the simplest way we can put this whole thing regarding rationality is don't act out of strong emotion. Whether it's anger, happiness, fear, whatever it is, strong emotions, they ultimately just cloud your judgment. They were designed, right? There are 3 levels to the brain. You've got the neocortex, which is the highest level and most recently evolved level, right? This is how we do our actual thinking and our logic and reasoning. You've got, I forget the word of the lowest level, the descriptor of it, but essentially it's just your autonomic nervous system. It's running your heart and your lungs, making sure you breathe and pump blood through your body. And in between those, you've got your limbic system, which is often referred to as your reptilian brain. It's your emotions, right? It's the raw feelings that we get. It's that fear response, and there's no thinking there. There's not a lot of logical thinking there. It's designed to keep you alive. It's evolved to help you survive in the wild, right? And that's what animals operate on. We're not animals, we're humans. Well, we're animals, but you know what I mean. We're one level above that. And so that's where it's really important to separate yourself from the emotions, to produce as much rational thought as you can and avoid as much irrational thought as possible. So anytime you're feeling a strong emotion one way or another, the best thing you can do is it's be disciplined with your emotions, and it's step back from them. And that might mean just stopping, right? Maybe you're in the middle of a heated conversation and you need to just pull away. And for the record, this is a constant struggle for pretty much everybody. It is hard to grasp this, but the more you're aware of it, the more you're conscious of the fact that you do this, right, that your emotions get the best of you, the sooner you can start to grapple with them and eventually tame them and then have pretty much complete control over them. And this is something that good men do, and that men actively seek is those three things. It is discipline, responsibility, and rationality. Because all these things, they interplay together, right? If you are, the other thing about being rational, right? When you're rational in a time of, let's say there's a time of great stress, if you're rational in it and people see that you're rational and calm and in control, right? Because you've taken responsibility for the situation, you're not just blaming it on outside events, because you're disciplined about it and you're disciplined with your emotions and you're acting rational, people will again continue, their respect for you will grow. They will continue to be happily under your authority, right? Because you're exercising those three principles, you're exercising those three characteristics or attributes, whatever you want to call them. And again, this is a learned thing. This is something that I think only in the last couple of years have I really even started to develop for myself. And I know I've got a long way to go, but I'll say that everything around me has improved the more I have practiced those three things. The more responsibility I've taken in my life for myself and for people around me, the more disciplined I've been with myself, and the more I've focused on trying to be rational instead of emotional, the better life has gotten. So I genuinely believe that these are three things that will apply to everybody, man, and honestly they do. They apply to women too, right? I said this video was for the boys, but it's for everybody. But I think especially, I'm a guy, I will hold other men accountable and responsible for also trying to exercise these three traits as much as possible. Nobody's perfect. Again, we all fall victim to the biases. We all fall victim to our habits. And that's just why it's so important to recognize these three things sooner rather than later, so that you can learn to control them. And that's it for this one. Those are the three things. So again, responsibility, discipline, rationality. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, just make sure you hit like and subscribe so I can keep making these. And I will talk to you another time. Have a good one.